First thing in the morning, you're turning it on. You're turning on your phone for update. God doesn't do update. Your update is past date to God. God has determined the end from the beginning. I'm telling you, half of the things you're worried about are already set. While most of us think situationally, God is working on something that is generational. You might not like this part. Sometimes God doesn't move you for you, he moves you for your descendants. We are so focused on our dream, our comfort, our calling, that we seldom see the omniscience of God's divine strategy. We don't accept inconvenience to accomplish divine purpose. You praying about next week, and God is telling Abraham, go ahead and rest and don't worry about anything. I got a 400-year strategy. This thing is already set, y'all.
Whenever you ask for change, you've got to be prepared for disruption. If you plant an oak tree in the earth, it's going to disrupt the soil. If you plant a peach tree in the soil, it's going to disrupt the ground. There's no way you can have growth.
God has a plan for your life, and you can finish it with God's help. And he'll give you a joy and a peace that you never dreamed existed if you put your confidence in him. Oh yes, when Jesus left the earth, there were people that needed to be healed and lives that needed to be touched. But Jesus said he had finished the work that had been assigned to him by the Father. God has assigned a work that only you can fill. You are unique. Nobody can take your place. And God needs you in his kingdom.
Sometimes you need to get knocked down before you can really figure out what your fight is and how you need to fight it. Sometimes you need to feel the pain and sting of defeat to activate the real passion and purpose that God predestined inside of you. God says to Jeremiah, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Hear me well on this day. This day when you have reached the hilltop and you are deciding on next jobs, next steps, careers, further education. You would rather find purpose than a job or a career. Purpose crosses disciplines. Purpose is an essential element of you. It is the reason you are on the planet at this particular time in history. Your very existence is wrapped up in the things you are here to fulfill. Whatever you choose for a career path, remember the struggles along the way are only meant to shape you for your purpose. When God has something for you, it doesn't matter who stands against it. If it's meant for you, God will move someone that's holding you back away from a door and put someone there who will open it for you. I don't know what your future is, but if you're willing to take the harder way, the more complicated one, the one with more failures at first than successes, the one that has ultimately proven to have more meaning, more victory, more glory, then you will not regret it. Press on with pride and press on with purpose and appreciate what God has brought you through.
The eagle spreads its wings. It's something to behold. It was built to soar, to fly. It was built to withstand storms, so that when the storm comes and other birds run for shelter, the eagle runs into the storm and uses the storm to lift it up so that it can fly above the storm. You know you're an eagle when you ran into a storm that you thought was going to kill you, and instead of it killing you, it lifted you higher than you've ever been lifted before. It's a sure sign you're an eagle. Can you hear me tonight? What you need is another eagle with wings and dreams and visions and concepts, who's not jealous of you, who's not intimidated by you, who's not fighting you. You know that it's an eagle when they're not jealous of you. You know it's another eagle when they can pray for you and help you to get to the next level. It's only the chickens that are down on the ground talking about everybody. So don't be frustrated when you see the chickens flapping up and falling down. Because at this stage in your life, it's time for you to be synergistic with other eagles.
If people are not listening to you, stop talking to them. That is the best piece of advice that I can give you. And if you stop talking to people who aren't listening to you and start watching them instead, they will tell you what they're up to. But so if you have things to say them. But you find people that will listen. Talk to them. The ones who aren't listening, pull back. Because you're devaluing what you have to say by offering it to an audience that does nothing but reject it. And that's a good guideline to life in general. So pull back.
You know, courage mounts up, and then sometimes we have the doubts that creep in, and we reach a little deeper to find that courage that overcomes our doubts and our fears. So I would probably debate a little bit with Napoleon on this unwavering courage, because sometimes courage does waver. But as long as it stays, as long as in the end there it is to serve you, the courage to do what you didn't think you could do, the courage to step into territory that might be a little unfamiliar, the courage to talk to somebody you don't know, the courage to attempt conducting a meeting, the courage to give your first testimonial, the courage to solve problems you couldn't solve before, that kind of courage. The courage to stand up when it's sort of dark in your corner, the courage to do it when it isn't going your way, seemingly, the courage to try to have a good day in the midst of a bad day. That kind of courage. Wavering a little at times, yes, because we all have doubts that attack us. We all have small fears that creep in. That is the nature of life. But that's what faith is all about. That's what courage is all about. To serve us when our doubts will not serve us well. Faith to overcome fear, and courage to overcome our doubts.
All your circumstances may say you'll never fly. You don't have the training, the experience. Thoughts will tell you you'll always be grounded. No, get ready. Your wings are coming. Where you are is not permanent. God did not create you to crawl, to go through life lonely, struggling. He created you to soar, to take new ground, to go further than you thought possible. Now quit being discouraged by what you see. What you see is subject to change. You don't know what God is up to. You don't know what He's doing behind the scenes.
When you're an eagle, you're meant to rise up. We don't rise up when everything's going well. We rise up regardless. You're trained to rise up on your worst day. That's who you are. In the worst of circumstances. No place for whining, complaining, being anxious, being negative. It's totally unnecessary.
When a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly, gets its wings, it doesn't just have the ability to crawl faster, just be better at what it could already do. It comes into a whole new dimension, from crawling to flying. When you get your wings, you're not going to just be better at what you can do right now. God is going to catapult you into a new dimension, into favor that you haven't seen. Things are going to happen sooner than you thought. Should have taken you a lifetime to pay your house off, but you did it in a fraction of the time. What happened? You went from crawling to flying. You got your wings. You're going to discover gifts, talents, creativity that you didn't know you had. Where you think, where did this come from? You got your wings. That's God taking you places that you could never go on your own.
Discover that you are important to the human race. You are important to the world. You are important to your universe. You can never fully carry out the mandate of leadership if you don't have the mentality of leadership. It's about mentality. A matter of fact, integrating attitude and aptitude and altitude produces leadership. That's a lot of ops there. First of all, your attitude got to be right. Then you must marry that to attributes. That means gifts you were born with. Then you got to marry that to aptitude. That means now you got to educate and train those gifts. That's why you read, study, and go to school, for your aptitude to be increased. And then your altitude means you got to change the level of associations you are in. No one can live beyond the limits of their belief. So if you want to live beyond what you're living now, you have to change your belief system. The secret to anyone rising is what happens in their belief system. Your life is what you think it should be. That's exactly what you are right now. You are what you thought you should be. And if you don't like who you are, you got to change what you think you should be. That's how leaders are born.
Here's the key to the good life. Learn to put everything you've got into everything you do. Whatever you are doing, pour it on. It will quickly open up into opportunity or quickly disclose to you that you ought to be doing something else. Here's the next attitude disease, indecision, mental paralysis. The guy can't make up his mind and it becomes a disease. Pretty soon he knows he's got it. A life full of adventure is a life full of many decisions. The ones that turn out to be wrong give you better experience to make better decisions. So don't see how many decisions you can get out of, see how many you can get into. That's where the adventure is. So shake off this disease, indecision. The next one is doubt. And one of the worst is self-doubt. There are many, but that's one of the worst. The guy doubts himself, doubts if he can do that well, doubts if he can make that much, doubts if he can accomplish all that. A chronic, excellent self-doubter. You can imagine what damage that does to your future. So here's the key. Turn this coin over and become a believer. And there's many things to believe in. One of the majors is yourself. The understanding of self-worth is the beginning of progress.
Eagles live on another level. Eagles think on another level. Eagles dream on another level. Eagles function on another level. If you had somebody reject you, leave you, start crying about it. It was just chicken.
My mother said, Leslie, if you run around with 9 broke people, I guarantee you, you'll become number 10. Well, come to find out, Mama was right. She only had a 3rd grade education. But the studies indicate that you earn within $2,000 to $3,000 of your closest friends. So poverty and living a mediocre life is communicated mind to mind. And so your relationships can hold you down or they can lift you up. I teach people to practice the principle of OQP. Only quality people. If you're the smartest one in your group, you need to get a new group.
Sometimes it's so easy to focus on how we lost during the day. Sometimes it's so easy to focus on, here's all the things that I did wrong for myself. A lot of us do that a lot. We beat ourselves up. We're like, hey, we didn't eat right today. It's a loss for the day. Hey, I didn't work out. It's a loss for the day. Hey, I didn't study today. It's a loss for the day. And I think so many times we beat ourselves up for all of our shortcomings when we really need to be focusing on what we did right. For a lot of us out there, we all have big goals and we're chasing after greatness in our life. And it's like, hey, in order for me to make change in my life, it's this big, overwhelming obstacle. And we're like, hey, I'm here, I need to get to here, and I want to make all that jump at once. When in truth, your success is not one big jump. It's actually a bunch of small, consistent steps. You continuing to show up for yourself.
Your leadership development is determined by, number 1, your perception of who you are. Number 2, by why you think you exist. And number 3, your sense of significance. I am giving you my secret to life right here. You got to first change your perception of who you are. And that starts with a belief system. Secondly, you must change your perception of why you think you exist. And number 3, your sense of significance. No matter where you are right now, it doesn't matter. I don't care what situation you're in now, where you're working, or what situation you're in. If you get these 3 things to come alive in this session, when I see you again, you'll have a story to tell.
Because we all have this warfare going on. You know, it's going on in the world, the warfare between liberty and tyranny. In our own body, the warfare between health and illness, the struggle is on. The struggle between light and darkness, the struggle between good and evil. I call it opposites in conflict. And as soon as you're born into the world, as soon as you find yourself and discover yourself on this spinning planet headed somewhere, you know that this exists. To be a civilized society, we must drive the dark side of our nature into a small corner and let the positive side flourish. Early, we must learn to exercise self-control. Power is a wonderful thing, but it must be exercised properly. It must be exercised to benefit, not to destruction, so that you can become the best example. The example of having your temper well managed, to having that dark side of your nature under control. The best example of choosing wise words and not being careless, that kind of control. Control of your appetite, control of your desires so that they fit into the positive side of life and not the negative side. Self-control, very important. Now here's the next three. Willingness to assume full responsibility. All of us have been taught that, to take full, 100% responsibility. What happened to me might not have been my responsibility, but what I do about it is my full responsibility. If a hailstorm destroys the farmer's crop, he wasn't responsible for that. But his responsibility now begins when the hailstorm is over, when he asks the question of himself, what should I do now? Now that this catastrophe is over, now that the damage is done, now what should I do about it? And a philosophy I've taught all these years, it's not what happens to you that determines your future. It's what you do about what happens that determines your future. And this is a major part of it, accepting full responsibility. Also, you've got to be responsible for your future. Nobody's going to fix it. No one else is going to design it. No one else is going to come along and say, hey, I will make sure it all works well for you. You've got to take all the input. You've got to take all the testimonials, all the teaching, all the training, all the influence. Then you've got to have the responsibility of designing your life. You can design a life of prosperity, or you can design a life just to coast and get by. The responsibility belongs to you.
The beauty of our God is He doesn't just heal the wounds, He restores the years. He makes up for what wasn't fair. Stay encouraged, payback is coming. God is keeping the records. He knows how to not just restore you, but restore the years that were stolen. We've all been through seasons in life where it feels like we've lost time. We were in a relationship that didn't work out. We've lost those years. We weren't raised in a healthy environment. Feels like we've lost our childhood. We came down with an illness or struggled with an addiction. Months pass, maybe years. It's time that we can't get back. It's easy to think that was just a rough season. There's nothing that I can do about it. But God said in the book of Joel, I will restore the years that the locusts have eaten, the years that the cankerworm and palmer worm have destroyed. It's said that time is the one thing that we can't get back. That's true in the natural, but we have a supernatural God. He knows how to make up for lost time. He's not going to just restore you. He's going to restore the years that you spent in that relationship that didn't make it. It feels like it was a waste of time, but God is going to make the rest of your life so fulfilling that you don't think about what you've been through. He's not going to just bring you out of that illness. He's going to restore the years that you spent taking the treatment. Your latter days will be better than your former days. And here's how good God is. He's even going to restore the years that we've wasted, making poor choices, running with the wrong crowd. Years you should have been studying, but you spent them partying. Years that you should have been raising children, but you were distracted doing other things. Years you should have been pursuing dreams, but you let fear and opposition hold you back. It should be too late. You missed your chance. God is saying, get ready. I'm about to restore the years. I'm about to make up for the time you missed with your children. He's not going to just restore the relationship. He's going to restore the years. He's going to make it as if you never lost that time. That company you spent years at, they didn't treat you fairly. God is not going to just turn it around, but He's going to pay you back for what should have been yours. He's going to make up for the years that you've lost. The scripture went on to say, your threshing floor will be full of grain. Your storehouses will overflow with wheat and oil. You will have an abundance and be satisfied. Notice what happens when God restores: abundance, overflow, more than enough. They had been in famine, not seeing any increase, and suddenly God not only turned it around, but He paid them back for the lost years. He made up for what should have been theirs. God is keeping a record of everything that should have been yours. He knows what you didn't get. He saw you working hard, raising those children. making sacrifices, but they haven't turned out like they should. He saw you taking the treatment, keeping a good attitude, praising him when it wasn't improving, thanking him when you didn't feel well. He saw you struggling with the addiction, trying to beat it, going to counseling, quoting the promises, but it hasn't changed. Your harvest hasn't come. Don't worry, it's on the way. God is not going to just free you, just heal you, just turn your children around. He's going to restore the years that you've lost. You're going to still get a harvest from all those years you prayed, those years you believed, those years you did the right thing, you worked hard, you helped others. That harvest has been stored up. The enemy may think he took it, but God has the final say. He has blessings stored up for you. When he restores the years, you're going to be more fulfilled than you've ever been. You're going to be healthier, stronger, more energy. You're going to have better relationships than you've ever dreamed. You're going to overflow with blessings, overflow with joy, overflow with favor. God sees the years you've lost. He knows the pain, the hurt, what wasn't fair. The beauty of our God is he doesn't just heal the wounds, he restores the years. He makes up for what wasn't fair. You may feel like you're in one of those lost years. The pandemic has slowed your business, put your dreams on hold. You're dealing with an illness. A child is off course. You've invested so much, but it looks like it was wasted. The locusts came and ate up your harvest. Stay encouraged. Payback is coming. God is keeping the records. He knows how to not just restore you, but restore the years that were stolen, the years that were unfair, the years that were lonely, the years you struggled with that depression. When God restores the years, you're not going to look like what you've been through. When he makes up for what should have been yours, nobody is going to know that you had the illness. Nobody will know you went through the breakup. You'll be so blessed, so happy, so healthy, nobody will be able to tell. Everything that belongs to you is coming back. The health, the freedom, the promotion, the joy, the victory is not coming back like it was. It's going to come back pressed down, shaken together, running over. When God restores the years, like with my friend, your joy will overflow. You'll have an abundance of opportunity, an abundance of resources, an abundance of good health. There will be a time where God says, that's it. I'm coming down to vindicate you, to heal you, to promote you, to pay you back for what you're owed. The Pharaoh that was holding them captive was very powerful. He had a huge army, the latest equipment, chariots, skilled warriors. The Israelites had none of that. No chance in the natural. They were slaves. But God is not limited by what you don't have, by who's against you, by how powerful the sickness looks, by how long you've struggled, by how far that child is off course. Nothing can stand against our God. When he comes down to deliver you, all the forces of darkness cannot stop it. Don't focus on how big your obstacles are. Focus on how big your God is. He flung stars into space. He spoke worlds into existence. He's saying to you what he said to them. I'm coming down to deliver you. I'm coming down to make things happen that you couldn't make happen. I'm coming down to restore the years that you've lost. God knows how to freeze things until you accomplish what he put in your heart. It may feel like you're running out of time, but God wouldn't have planned out your days. He wouldn't have given you a destiny and then not given you the time to fulfill it. It may seem like it's too late. You've missed your season. If you would have pursued that dream 20 years ago, it would have worked. If you would have invested in your marriage, your business, your children back then, you could have accomplished it. No, there's still time. I wonder what would happen if you would do like Joshua and say, son, stand still. God, I need more time to spend with my children. I didn't know back then what I know now. I need more time to finish my education, more time to accomplish my dream. God gave Joshua an extra day to finish his assignment. God said he would restore years that you've lost. You're not running out of time. Time is on your side.